Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, in February, I'm off to Denver to support my good friend Sarah Elkins at her No Longer Virtual event, who incidentally also has her own podcast out too called Your Stories Don't Define You. So check that one out if you have time. Now, during my downtime over there, I am hoping to check out the Rockies and track down the room where Stephen King wrote The Shining at the Stanley Hotel. But is there anything else I must do while I'm in town? Would you like to show me? Grab a coffee. Let me know by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com and pass along the things that I should do in Denver when I'm very much alive. An old cool film reference for my slightly older listeners there. Now, there are more and more startups coming out of Denver at the moment, which are incredibly exciting. And today's is actually leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to create the most robust product offering in the business. Now, that was more than enough to grab my attention, so buckle up, hold on tight, so I can beam your ears all the way to Denver, so we can speak with GoSpotCheck CEO Matt Talbot. So, a massive warm welcome to the show, Matt. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm Matt Talbot. I'm the CEO and co-founder at GoSpotCheck. So GoSpotCheck, I'll talk a little bit about the company and a little bit about my role. But we're a mobile software as a service company that works with organizations that have really large teams in the field. And they use our software to basically gain better intelligence around what's happening out in the field and how they can improve their performance. So I'll certainly go more into the product and solution later, but that's what we do from a 30,000 foot view. My role at the company as CEO is basically to set the overall strategy for the organization. So what type of company do we want to build? Where are we going to play? How are we going to differentiate? Manage the culture. So how do we work together as a team? What are our norms? How do we ensure that we're all performing at the highest possible level? And then, of course, I'm also responsible for raising capital and managing our investor base. So that's what I do.
Fantastic. Now, my understanding is GoSpotCheck is a simple integrated SaaS platform for companies with those large field operations looking for real-time field data and improved execution from their field teams there. But before we learn more about what GoSpotCheck does, I'm interested in the problems that it actually solves. So do you have any examples of how real-time field data is crucial to some teams and why not having access to that is actually holding them back right now?
Absolutely. So, if you think about these organizations that have large field teams, you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes and imagine the challenge of running an organization with 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 reps in the field that are out there doing work on behalf of the company day in, day out. The challenge kind of comes from the fact that the visibility that managers have into their field team's activity is typically very low. So contrast that field team dynamic to thinking about working as part of a marketing team at a software company. Working as a marketing team as a software company, you're probably all sitting in the same general area. It's very easy to have stand-ups and talk about what work you want to do that day. It's easy to work through challenges together. It's very easy as a manager to see who's doing well, who's struggling, who needs additional coaching and guidance. As you move into this kind of realm of a field team, the distance is very real. So you may not be getting together as a team more than once a month or once a quarter. And the rest of the time, everyone is kind of running around day in, day out, going to service clients or sell products or distribute products. And it can be really, really hard to get visibility into what's working and what's not working. So for us, our software makes it really easy for managers to basically distribute what we call missions out to their team. So they can send a mission, which is basically a task list that's specific for that worker and the places that they're going to go and do work. And through that mission, the worker knows, here's exactly what my manager wants me to get done. Here's what's important today. And here's how I provide a documentation of the work that I've done at this specific place on this specific day. As a manager now, you have that real-time visibility. You can get photos and reports back from your folks in the field instantly, and then use that intel to help guide better coaching, guide better activity in the field, and ultimately improve that performance.
So I suppose naturally another question I've got to ask is how you're tackling these issues and providing a solution as well through data-driven technologies with GoSpotCheck.
Yeah, we really believe that in today's day and age, great teams, great organizations, great managers are just becoming increasingly data-driven, right? I think we all know that that's the trend. And so what we found is that there was a really interesting gap in data around the activity of field teams, right? So you kind of know the results. You ultimately know, what was sold, what was serviced, what kind of you can tally up at the end of the day in terms of their work. But there was a big data gap around the activity. What were these people in the field actually doing? What challenges were they facing? What opportunities were they seeing? And so this was work that was typically happening one way or another. A manager would ask the reports to send back a spreadsheet filled out with their activities for the day, or put together a PowerPoint at the end of the week on everything that they did in the market and all the challenges that they found. And that this kind of ad hoc and qualitative way of doing things was important, but it wasn't really providing any data-driven decision support for managers. And so we said, if we can think about this activity as being a data set, right? How can we quantify it? How can we make it something that fits into a database and can be mined for intelligence? It would really level up the game of these organizations, because they would move from being very anecdotal, right, and very driven by the stories that are being told, to being able to actually measure and quantify the effort of their team in the field and go, oh, you know what? Our team is very inefficient. It turns out there's a big bottleneck around how long it's taking for them to perform this certain activity. And that means that we need to rework some process. And that's going to make our people 30% more efficient, which means that they can spend more time servicing the customer, or more time visiting more accounts over the course of the day.
Now, you're working with some pretty big names at the moment, such as Under Armour, Pepsi, Dannon, and my personal favourite post-podcast drink, Jim Beam. But more on that story later. But can you help listeners visualise how you're helping these companies?
Yeah, well, let's start with your favorite, Jim Beam, because I think that's a really good example. So, Beam is a huge organization, very complex, with a huge portfolio of different spirits products. And if you imagine, walking into a liquor store, you'll notice that there's these displays set up everywhere, right? So a big display of, let's say, Jim Beam bourbon, with a big poster that says, try our latest flavor, Jim Beam White. And then you'll walk down the aisle and you'll see these different shelves set up in very particular ways. You may notice some other marketing materials in the store. Well, it turns out that someone like Beam is investing a massive amount of dollars into those channels to basically engage with the consumer in those physical stores. They want to get a display set up, they want to get a promotional material set out. And traditionally, this type of activity that happened in the field was based on kind of just a hope and a prayer that things were going according to plan. Because it would basically be, they would let their field reps know, here's what we'd like to get done, report back on what's happening, but it's basically up to the rep to provide that mechanism for reporting back. Hey, in Chicago, it ended up being really difficult to get displays set up, so I was only able to get 3, even though you asked me to do 10. Or even worst case, the rep might say, hey, I got 10 displays set up, but they didn't actually have any verification that that really happened. And so Beam is sitting in a position where they're going, we're investing a lot of money into these channels. It's a critical consumer touch point that we're presenting our products in the right way to the end consumer. And we don't really have any quantifiable data as to what exactly is happening inside of the 4 walls of those accounts and the exact activities of our field team that are supporting those different initiatives. So they brought in GoSpotCheck. They built, a series of GoSpotCheck missions based on their core initiatives. So they would say, okay, we want to, focus on getting a certain brand, more distribution, and more displays within a certain market. They commemorate that in GoSpotCheck, build missions. They then distribute that out to their field team. Their field team now knows when they walk into a specific account, they can say, oh, okay, here I am at, Jim's liquor store in Chicago. The goal is to get 5 displays set up within this account for our 5 different brands that we're focused on. I'm going to go execute that. I'm going to take a picture of the display, quantify how many cases I got on there, quantify whether or not I got the marketing material up, and then submit it through GoSpotCheck. And now Beam is in a position where every day they can monitor exactly what's happening in the market. And they can get real intel and say, hey, we have 36 different displays set up in Chicago right now. Here's photos that prove it. It's spread across these 6 different brands. We believe that's going to drive these results. So it really ends up becoming a game changer for those large companies on the visibility that they can get against those different investments that they make into the field.
Now, you also recently announced GoSpotCheck, a $21.5 million funding round, where you're aiming to leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning to create the most robust product offering in business, which sounds incredibly exciting. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're thrilled to continue to be able to invest heavily in the business and very lucky to have really, really good investors that are excited about the vision that we have. So we raised this additional funding to definitely continue to invest in product and how we can innovate there. As we begin to think about how we leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning, there's a couple themes that we're working on. And one is certainly around computer vision. So if we can simplify the rep's job by having them just take a picture of a display or a shelf and then automate the extraction of all the data that's within that picture, that can be a huge time saver for these organizations. It can also give our customers more granular intelligence around what's happening out there in the field in a way where it would take a human a very, very long time to manually enter all that information. It can become very quick for the user to simply snap a photo and have us process all the information around that photo. So we're really excited about working in that space. We'll have some product announcements in the next 6 months about exactly what that looks like, but thematically that's one really big theme. The second is, if you think about the data set that we're building, we're helping organizations basically codify the work that's happening in the field into a very structured format. Well, what's really neat about that is that now we have a massive database of information. We have on the order of 200 million tasks completed on the platform. That's a lot of data that's highly structured, that can be used to begin to say, now we understand this activity. Now it's built into a database in a way where we can actually mine it and find interesting trends. How can we use artificial intelligence and machine learning to extract better recommendations on how organizations are investing the time and the activities into the field to drive the best results? So it's a really exciting theme for us, and we do believe we're well positioned because of our growth and because of our very strong customer base to leverage some of these tools to just continue to build a fantastic product that our customers love.
So in this age of hyperchange, are you really finding now that having access to that strategic, data-driven decisions in real time is becoming more and more critical for businesses?
I think definitely.
Yeah.
The theme is really, I think that there's a couple themes, right? One is organizations have to be focused on getting the right data. There's data everywhere. Everyone's trying to use data to make decisions. The question is, what data do you need that's actually going to move your business forward? So we think there's a certain component of, it not only has to be, certainly big data, a lot of data, but it's got to be the right data. So, the more that organizations have a focus around what are the activities that drive our business forward and how are we using data to help understand and drive better decisions there, is really critical. So first they have to really think through a really good approach. The second thing is that real-time component. I think that what great organizations are doing today to remain really competitive is they're not only being very data-driven and thinking through how are we measuring activity, they're raising their expectations on the freshness of the data that they're using. And for organizations where speed is critical, which I would argue would be almost every organization in the world, the more that you can leverage real-time data to help drive decisions, the better off you'll be. So how that applies to us, if you think about someone like Beam that we talked about earlier, is these key periods where they're investing a lot into the field to drive more consumer attention would be around, let's say, something like a holiday, right? So you probably may have bought an extra bottle of Beam as you got into the holiday season because you're going to be hosting and having friends over.
Of course, it's not all for myself.
Of course, yes, exactly right. You share a little, and so for these organizations, that's a really critical period for them. So if they have a 1 week period where they know they're going to have increased consumer demand, they want to make sure that their product is really well presented in the store and they have a big display set up so consumers will choose to grab their product instead of the competitors. It means that they have 7 days in the market. So if one day they're not, the first of those 7 days, they don't have all the displays set up, that's a huge dollar impact. So if they can be finding out in the moment in real time what's going on in their accounts and if their plans are being implemented the right way, they can now quickly make adjustments, right? And that ability to act within the same day or within 24 hours on an opportunity or an issue is a huge game changer because they're able to shift spend, right, and ensure that they're maximizing all the investment in the field. So I do think it is a really big theme, and I think we're really, really seeing it play out in our space.
Now, you did mention the holidays there, and we have just come out of the holiday season. So did you notice any big trends for retailers? And also, how important was real-time data becoming a necessity during that holiday shopping season this year?
Well, I think it's critical. We saw a huge spike in activity over November and December on the platform in terms of the amount of data that's captured. And what we found is the organizations that ended up getting the results that they wanted out of the holiday season had committed to really getting a daily pulse on the GoSpotCheck data. And so that was critical. And I think that what we're finding is a theme for retailers and beverage alcohol companies and consumer goods companies, which kind of encompass a lot of the market that we work with, is with all the pressures that are happening, with e-commerce and omni-channel and all the different opportunities out there for consumers to engage in and buy products, is that physical retailing space is becoming really, really, really important. And what I mean by that is that it's expensive, but it's also very high fidelity, and that you get to engage with the shopper in a really unique and important way. What that means, though, is that expectations are rising. And it means that shoppers aren't going to accept empty shelves and crappy-looking displays, right, and the wrong products. And so the organizations that are doing really, really well are saying, how are we orchestrating the right experience? How are we really focused on ensuring that the right product is getting in front of the right consumer at the right time? And what we found is that those that are using some sort of real-time data capture mechanism are able to really take advantage of those periods in a way that other organizations can't.
So what's your primary focus for GoSpotCheck here in 2018? Are there any big goals that you're going to be aiming for that you can share with us today?
I think the big thing for us more than anything is just continuing to scale up the organization. What we'll really, really be focused on is how do we continue to expand the footprints in the markets that we're in? How do we add some innovative products to that basket of offerings that we take into our customer base? How do we identify some new growth markets? That is kind of the entire theme for 2018. For us, we will be bringing a new product to market within the next 6 months. We're really excited about. We'll be very focused on the same problem. So that'll be a big initiative. And then for us, it's just about, building the team, finding really, really great people, integrating them into the organization, training them well, and ultimately having them help build the next phase of the company.
Now, as a UK podcaster, I am noticing an increasingly vibrant startup scene over there in Denver. I mean, why do you think that area is particularly thriving in the US? And also, as I'm visiting in February, can you offer any tips on what I must do during my stay over there?
Well, you definitely have to come by the GoSpotCheck office and say hi, and we can open up a bottle of Beam and have a toast.
Oh, I will hold you to that. Fantastic.
I think that Denver's a fantastic place to build a company, and I think why we're seeing a lot of growth in the startup scene is that number one, I think a lot of people are looking for a different experience other than the kind of classic coastal experiences. It can be very, very expensive and very competitive. So if you look at the lifestyle in Denver, it's just a fantastic place to live, right? We have the Rocky Mountains in our backyard. We have a really, really good climate. We have a very smart, educated and young workforce that's here. And we have a lot of interesting companies building interesting things. And so those things in combination, relatively affordable, amazing place to live, some good early growth companies have really accelerated the startup scene. When we started in 2011, there were very few startups in Denver. Now we're at the point where there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are really beginning to take off. And so I think Denver is just a super attractive place to be, and that's what's really helped drive a lot of the growth for the startup community there.
Well, a huge thank you for coming on today. Before I do let you go, can you remind the listeners of where they can find out more information about GoSpotCheck, and also how they can contact your team or your good self there if they have any other questions about our conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way is our website, so GoSpotCheck.com, to learn more about the organization. If you want to reach out, there's a contact us form there. Anyone is also, of course, always willing to add me on LinkedIn and message me that way. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me, and I'm more than happy to engage with anybody that's interested in learning more about our products or services, or just what it's like to build a company in Denver.
Excellent. Well, I'll add those links to the show notes just so people can get a hold of you nice and easily. But more than anything, a big thank you for coming on, because I love what you're doing there and how you're leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning and create the most robust product offering in the business there. So a big thank you for taking the time to come on and share that story with us today.
Of course, anytime, Neil. It was really great chatting, and enjoy the rest of your day.
For me, today's conversation was not just about leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to create that most robust product offering in the business, but it was about having access to real-time field data and how crucial it is becoming to so many teams now, and why not having that kind of access is actually holding them back and opening themselves up and making them vulnerable to their competition, because this is the Achilles heel for so many businesses and where they're wide open to be disrupted. Because we must have everything in real time now, and a weekly or even daily report is just not going to cut it anymore. But are you noticing any trends in this space? Do you have any travel tips for me in Denver, or would you like to meet me for a coffee when I'm in town? As always, email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or pop by my site techblogwriter.co.uk/podcast and leave me an audio message. The choice is yours. But a big thank you for Matt coming on the show today, and an even bigger thank you to you listening and tuning into the show every day. I shall return tomorrow, I will promise you that, but it's time for me to go now. So until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.